Hello friends and welcome. Today's video will be all about the sequel to Serpent and Dove, Blood and Honey. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit, so I'm gonna give you guys a book review but also show you bookish items that came in my Blood and Honey special edition box from Fairyloot. The reason I didn't do an unboxing video of it is because I first wanted to read the book so that I could provide you with more context concerning the items, if that makes sense. I'm just really excited to share my thoughts on this book because man, it got a lot of mixed reviews, so I'm also really interested to hear what you guys think. And if you like this kind of videos, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell so you never miss another video of me again. Let's get started. For the most part, this review will be spoiler free, but just to make sure, if you haven't read the book yet and don't want any spoilers, check out the chapters in this video. Let's start off with taking a closer look at this beautiful edition of Blood and Honey. Where you go, I will go. Lou and Reid are reunited, but after a narrow escape from Morgane's dagger, they are pursued on all sides by coven, kingdom, and church. Their time and luck is running out. Where you stay, I will stay. Together, they were sure they would be able to conquer anything. But as Morgane baits them into a lethal game of cat and mouse, they are forced to turn to La Voisin, queen of the Dame Rouge and sworn enemy of Lou's coven, for help. For as long as we both shall live. As Lou explores a shadowy side of magic that she believes is necessary to protect her husband and her friends, Reid reluctantly explores his own newfound power. They are bound as one for the rest of their days. But death comes for us all. Let's start off this review with one of my favorite quotes from the book, and in this part, Cloud, one of the characters, is talking to Louise. What you are now is not what you have always been, nor is it what you always will be. You are a snake. Shed your skin if it no longer serves you. Transform into something different, something better. This quote can also be found on one of the bookish items that I wanted to show you. And it is a blanket and it's super big, so I'm gonna try to give you guys a good shot. And when I say big, it's big. This is probably the biggest blanket that I got in a book box, which is awesome, by the way, and it's super cozy. Let me start by saying, do not read Blood and Honey if you haven't read Serpent and Dove, because the author assumes that you did. The story starts where the first book ended. I've read the book and I loved it, but still I had to read a recap to get reacquainted with the characters and the different types of magic. And by reading the recap, I also found out why the sequel is called Blood and Honey, because blood is used by the Dame Rouge, blood magic. They cut themselves and then they use that blood to heal someone else, and then they have to seal the wound with honey for it to completely heal. World building is definitely one of the author's strengths. The story takes place in Belterra, which is this foresty island with medieval vibes and French influences. Among its inhabitants, there are werewolves, mermaids, mythical beings, and witches. We get to revisit the city of Caesarine and learn more about the royal family. Every location is described in detail, so for example, the flora and fauna of the environment or how the streets look, and this gives it a certain ambience. Talking about locations and ambience, this is another bookish item that we got, a candle called La Forêt des Yeux, wild patchouli, distressed leather, and fruits. This translates to the Forest of Eyes, which is a forest in Belterra, home to the witches. I've already used it, so I can tell you that it smells amazing, and it has a wooden wick, so it crackles when it burns. The story constantly switches between our two main characters, Lou and Reid. This is an enjoyable and fast-paced way of reading, but sometimes the two POVs were indistinguishable. I have to say I had this problem with Serpent and Dove as well. And seeing as Lou and Reid have completely different personalities, I can only assume that it has to do with the writing style. One of the characters we meet along the journey is called Toulouse. He is a member of Troupe de Fortune, and Toulouse is someone who can read tarot cards. So Toulouse draws a deck from his pocket and he's showing the cards to Reid. I vaguely recognized a bolt of lightning, a shield, the major arcana cards, he explained. 22 in all, 10 on my fingers, 10 on my toes, 1 on my cheek, and 1 elsewhere. And this is where he is referring to his tattoos. And that is also one of the items, a major arcana tarot deck. And it is a gorgeous deck. It has gold foiling all around and each card has character art. Really gorgeous cards and a great item from the book. Another thing that I really liked about the story is the dialogues and the amount of banter. And yes, Big Titty Liddy makes a reappearance. It might feel a little bit childish at times, but then again, these are teens and it made me chuckle. A good example is when Madame LaBelle, the mother of Reid and Beau, who is the son of the king, is confronted by her about the rumors of his former exploits. And he tells her, "As I'm sure you heard the incorrect story, I will set the matter straight. I lost my virginity to a mophiliac." I stared at him. "A what?" "A mophiliac," he repeated irritably. "Someone who is aroused by stuttering. Her name was Apollonia. She was a chambermaid in a castle and several years older than me, the beautiful hag." And while we're on the topic of characters, I wanted to show you guys this art print with Beau, Lou, Reid, and Coco. Then there's this beautiful bookish pin with a quote from one of the characters, and I believe that it's Madame LaBelle. "Love makes fools of us all, darling. The world needs a whit less hate and a trifle more love." Some people have mentioned that nothing much happens in the sequel. I have to disagree. There are new characters, quests, political motives, and background stories. The reason that people might say this is because the emphasis on the romance is completely gone. So if you were in it for the romance, then you're gonna be disappointed with Blood and Honey. So yeah, on a romance level, nothing really much happens. And the ending has a huge plot twist, which instantly made me curious about the third book. Because yes, this will no longer be a duology, but a trilogy. What I also really liked about this story is that same-sex relationships are normalized. So there's a gay werewolf, there are gay witches. It doesn't really matter, it's just how it is. In my opinion, the story definitely has some inconsistencies that go against the flow of logic. So let's talk about those. And I have to warn you, this part will have spoilers. The first one I want to talk about is on page 231, where Reid is throwing knives at Lou. Yeah, you heard me right. So Reid has joined the Troupe de Fortune, and someday Lou shows up because they were separated, and that she is attached to this wooden wheel. Reid has to throw knives at her. So this is his act, but until this point, he's always done it with his mother, Madame LaBelle. They didn't rehearse, they didn't practice. He's just gonna go for it. The entire audience is watching, and it kind of feels like he's enjoying himself, and Lou is enjoying herself as well. I mean, that's some SM for you right there. And then, yeah, it gets even worse. Reid is blindfolded, and the wheel starts spinning, and then he feels pressure to throw the knife, which is weird because I would just walk off stage or say, no, I'm definitely not going to do this without rehearsing it. So he ends up throwing the knife, and then everybody gasps, and the knife is not where it was supposed to go, because it was supposed to go above her head. And then when he takes off his blindfold, he sees that the knife went across her cheek and then landed beside her head, and then life just goes on. That happens. I just felt that throwing knives blindfolded is a little bit much, even for Lou and Reid. So I didn't really get why the author added that scene, maybe to represent the tension between the two. I don't know. For the next inconsistency, we go to page 271, where Lou is thinking back to her childhood and then compares that to her relationship with Reid. As he thinks back to a time when her mother murdered a man. He was an idiot. I hadn't been sorry when she'd killed him. I had been sorry when she'd cut open his chest and filled him with rocks, dumping his corpse into Le Mélancolique. That's a terrible pronunciation, by the way. I'd watch him sink out of sight with a sense of shame. His wife would never know what had happened to him or his children. The silence between Reid and me felt something like that, like leaping into the sea with rocks in my chest, helpless to stop sinking, to stop bleeding. Only it wasn't my mother who had cut me open this time. It was me. And maybe this is me, but I didn't get this. I thought this was just really far-fetched. I didn't really get the reference. I don't really see how murdering a man and looking at that can be compared to your relationship and feeling betrayed. I also didn't get the sentence, only it wasn't my mother who had cut me open this time, because he didn't. He cut open that man. So is it figuratively? It just pulled me out of the story and I felt it was illogic. And the final thing I wanted to address is a plot hole, I think. It can be found on page 490. And this is a part where Lou decided that she is going to go confront her mother alone. So she has found a way into the catacombs and she has locked that for the others. But then somehow Ansel Diggory appears in the catacombs. Ansel? Mouth falling open, I drop my hands. What are you doing here? How did you find me? He took in the skulls with wide eyes. When the others left, I tried the trapdoor again. I had a hunch. He gave me a tentative smile. After what happened with Coco, I knew you tried to be more careful with your magic, with the patterns you could safely maintain, and sealing the door against just Reid. It seemed simpler than sealing it against everyone else or sealing it permanently. I was right. When it opened, I followed the first tunnel. It led me straight here. That's impossible. I stared at him incredulously. That tunnel is a dead end. You must have gotten turned around in the dark. Oh, I've only just realized that this was a setup because Lou is telling him that's impossible and big spoiler, Ansel gets killed, which was so sad, by Morgane. So this was either a setup or fate because it was predicted by Coco that a man that she loved, that Lou loved, would die. Aww. So the attentive reader could have deduced that Ansel was going to be the one to die. At the end, there's also a big reveal about one of the characters called Claude Devereux, who is a musician and the manager of the troupe. And you gotta love his appearance. I mean, his nails are painted black, he has a big mustache, a beard, he wears a pinstriped pants and a top hat. And he is revealed as this mythical being that is called a woodwose, which is only quickly mentioned in the beginning when the group is drinking a bottle of wine and then the woodwose is on the label. So I had to look this up when this was revealed, but I still don't get it. And it's also hinted that Claude is the father of Lou. So your daddy is a woodwose? Like what? How is this not a big thing in the book? Talking about plots and endings, Fairyloot also provided us with a bonus chapter. And in this is a huge reveal, if you ask me, because I think it hints towards Lou being pregnant. All in all, I think Blood and Honey is just a good fantasy read. It has a great cast of characters, amusing dialogues, and good world building. I gave this book 4 stars. And that was everything I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and let's stay in touch.